Welcome back, and we're on what's this one? This is Belly Spring Farm again. Now, I was hoping to record a video of me planting carrots, because one of my paddocks I planted in carrots. The problem is that the reason I haven't recorded a video for a week is I've had a really bad cough. It hasn't stopped me doing my work and things like this, but it has meant that I haven't been able to record a video, because I'm sure none of you want to listen to me coughing in a video. And I did consider the possibility of doing a time-lapse video. I mean, I don't know how to speed it up after recording it, but I'm sure I could work that out. But then I sort of thought to myself, well, generally speaking, I don't really enjoy watching time-lapse videos very much, because I watch videos to actually hear what the people are talking about and what they have to say. So I thought, well, if I don't enjoy watching time-lapse videos that much, then other people probably don't enjoy watching them very much either. I know that at least some of the people that watch my videos will often be doing other stuff and just listening to them in the background, and not necessarily watching, you know, look up at the screen every now and then, but not sort of watching totally all the time. So I thought, well, a time-lapse video is no good to them anyway, so I decided I wouldn't do a time-lapse video, and it just meant that you missed out on seeing me plant carrots. I'm sorry, but I got planted and they all got done. Now I'll show you what I'm doing right now. If I go in here for a second, you can see that all of my cows have just given birth. So I've got cows and calves in all of my main paddocks. I don't need any of the calves because I've still got calves in all of my calf pens and things at the moment. But if you go down to these, the cows are now all at 48 months old. So bearing in mind it takes 10 months for a calf to, the gestation period is 10 months. If I let these cows calve again, they're all going to be 58 months old by the time they calve. And I know from what I've read and things that generally by the time a cow's getting to about 5 years old, give or take, they're no longer producing milk, so to a dairy farmer at least, they're no good. So what I like to do in my game, I know that in Farming Simulator, once they reach, I think it's 60 months old, they just stop getting any older, so it'll always show as 60 months old, no matter how many more months you own them for. But I like to actually, as my herd's getting older, I like to sell them and replace them with younger stock, because it's something else for me to spend money on. So it's another reason I can't build up too much money too quickly. So what I'm doing is, I knew these ones were getting up there in age a bit, but I wanted to wait until they'd finished calving, which they just have. So like if I go back here, you can see that all the cows are at 0 productivity because they've just given birth, and the calves are all 0 months old. So I know that normally when I sell my cows, I don't get enough to pay for the new herd. I have to put in some more money of my own as well. So what I'm hoping this time, and we will see during this video whether or not it does come to pass as I'm hoping that by selling all of my cows and all of my calves like this, I will end up with enough money to replace my herd and get a whole new herd without having to put any cash down. It'll just be basically a straight swap. There'll be 40 cows and 40 calves, and buying 40 new cows, which will be 18-month-old ones, so they will just they will begin giving milk straight away, although they do take time to build up to what am I talking about here? The productivity. Oh yes, so the where are we? The health won't be at 100% straight away, because every time you put a cow into a trailer or something to move it, and this cane here counts the trailer, it drops the productivity down to 0 again. So it takes most of a day to build up again. So it does mean that when I get the new herd home, the very first day that I have them here, I won't get as much milk as I would normally expect to get. It'll be a lower milk take on the first day, but that's fine. I fully expect that, which is why I haven't used any of the money I made from the last lot of milk I sold to pay off my any of my debts. I've still got 22,000 up there. Normally I always have under 5,000, because every time I get to 5,000 I pay another 5k off on my overdraft. I've kept it right now. That's not that gate I want, it's the next one down, because I knew that I was going to have to replace my herd. Now, and if you try and work out what paddocks I'm in at the moment, then all I can really say is give up. This was, in the map, it's 2 large paddocks which I've turned into 4 small ones. So I've put in not only hedges and gates between all the paddocks, but I've also put new gates in between all these new paddocks and the farm tracks. So I wanted all these smaller paddocks for putting cows in, but it does mean that you're not going to be able to sort of follow along and work out exactly which paddocks I'm in. I will show you in a second, but yeah, for anyone familiar with this map, you won't sort of recognise these paddocks because they're not like this in the actual map. Now, if I go here for a second, oh, not that one, oh yes, that one, up to the map. So where we are, if I go zoom in here, so you can see. So I'm in paddock 253 and 255 there. But if I go across, you can just sort of see a grey little line there. That's where I put hedges in. So if I go across and I click on, no, that's not really going to show me, is it? So there, yes, there you can see. So there's these 4 paddocks here that we've got the cows in. That's my winter paddocks, so they're down off the hill. But as you can also see, we're now in, where are we? May, so we're at the end of spring. So when I bring the new cows home, I'll actually be putting them in the summer paddocks. So rather than in these winter paddocks I'm pulling the old ones out of. But I thought we might have a bit of fun just taking the cows down to sell and getting some new ones. And I'll show you at the same time why I love this animal cane mod so much. The one thing you do have to be careful about with the animal cane mod is when you've got it strapped to the back of your trike like this, when you go over, let's go over here to where the bit is where you can load it up and things. So here, okay, at the animal pen, you press R to get into the animal dealer thing here, and R is also the same button as you press if you're standing next to the trike to undo the strap. So you do have to be careful, and you have to check when you jump back on the trike, or before you jump back on the trike, you haven't accidentally unstrapped the animal cane, because if you do, then what almost always happens, so there we've got the 40 cows and the 40 calves all on the cane now. So what would happen is if I'd unstrapped the cane like that accidentally, when I hop on the trike and take off, the cane will fall off the back of the trike, and it invariably falls under the map surface, and when it does fall under the map surface you have to reset it to get it back, and you lose everything that was in it. So basically you lose all those animals and you get no money for them. So if you're going to try and sort of copy this idea and put strap the cane to the back of the trike, and make sure the strap's still on there before you take off on the trike each time. Now at the moment I've got 80 animals in there, and because I'm treating them as herding them in front of the trike, so you can imagine that they're all being herded in front of the trike here, there's basically an unlimited number you could do with herding like that. But we are just about to put them all in the back of a stock truck. Now obviously a stock truck would not hold 80 animals, so if I wanted to be totally realistic, I'd Google how many cows you can fit in a stock truck at once, and I'd move them that many at a time. But I don't really want to be that realistic. I want to get them all done in one trip, so we're just going to put all 80 in the truck still. But you will at least get to see one of the reasons I do love this animal cane mod so much. Yeah, we're going into the cow run here. So this is the run you use to get all the cows from the winter paddock, from the summer paddocks, which are up on the hills, all down to the milking shed. And they all come down this run from the various different paddocks. Now that's a very New Zealand Kiwi thing, that. So if you've never seen something like that before, that will be why you haven't, because I don't know if any other countries do it quite the same way as we do. Now you see I've got the over here. So this is the stock sorting yard here, and what I'm going to do is put the cane right there. Don't let it fall under the ground, thank you. Okay, then we've got to go back and grab my stock truck, which will go this way. So we'll be using the old Bedford here. First thing we have to do is put the stock truck back on it. So, and the way I do it for this farm, and on some farms I do it, okay, with trucks like this, when you have an old farm truck like this, sometimes you have a stock crate that just goes on over the top of the flat deck, and so obviously you can't do it that way with this mod, but what I can do is have a stock crate and just swap the decks over. And other times you'll have sort of like sides that you attach to it to turn the deck into a stock crate, and that's how I'm treating it on this particular one. So what I do is I go to here, go customize, and I want that one, design one, cover, no, and change all these, like yay. You notice the cost is 0. That's because when I buy the truck I do all this to it already, so that means that anytime I want to customise it like this, it doesn't cost me any money, so I've already paid for it previously. And later on, if I want to, when I want to change it back to a flat deck for putting bales on it, again it doesn't cost me any money because I've already done that to it as well. So now, as I'm going to show you, it becomes a stock crate. I'll show you how. And basically, with the useless animal cane mod, absolutely any grain truck can be turned into a stock truck, an animal stock truck. So we back it up to the cow loading ramp here. Now, and we come over here, and we come on, grab the cane, done. Okay, and we walk it up this ramp here. Come on, into the. Oops, have I got it over there? Hopefully. Let's go and have a look. We just wait to check this is by something. Yes, it's in the back of the truck there. Awesome. So now we just have to jump in the truck. And so we've now got our 40 cows and our 40 calves all in the back of the stock truck. As I said, I understand that one stock truck wouldn't hold that many animals all at once, so I'm being a wee bit on the unrealistic side here, but that's just because I want to get it done in one trip for this video. And as I said, I'm hoping, I'm not sure whether this is going to work out or not, so I've never tried it this way before. I'm hoping that by selling 40 cows and 40 calves, that will pay for 40 new cows for me without me having to pay any cash difference. But I know that just selling the cows on their own isn't enough to pay for the new ones, because the older cows are not worth as much money as the 18-month-old ones I want to buy. Now, while we're driving, I'm going to tell you a really, really interesting story, and a kind of amusing story. My wife had a problem with her car the other day, and since I'm her mechanic whenever anything goes wrong, it became my problem to sort. And what the problem was the car stereo just stopped working. Just completely out of the blue, it just stopped working. Now, I'm not an auto electrician, and she's got a modern stereo. Although her car is the same as mine, so her car is 20 years old, she's got a modern stereo in it, whereas I've retained the 20-year-old original stereo for mine, because I want to keep the originality of it more. So it means that her stereo has GPS built in, it has a reversing camera built in, all these different It has Bluetooth built in, all these features that mine doesn't have. Mine has a CD stacker and that's all it has, and that was the factory CD stacker even. But when the stereo stopped working, everything stopped working to do with the stereo. No reversing camera, no Bluetooth, nothing, it all stopped. So I figured, well, if it all suddenly stopped like that, it's more than likely blown a fuse. And if it hasn't blown a fuse, it'll be a loose connection somewhere around the back of the stereo. But you do have to pull the whole dash apart to get your stereo out. And although my car is manual, hers is Tiptronic. So it does have like an automatic gear lever in the centre console. Now, to get her stereo out, you have to pull the centre console apart in order to pull the dash apart in order to get the stereo out. So it's a bit of a mission, but I managed it okay, and I've done it before, so I knew I'd managed it okay. Anyway, to get the stereo out, even after pulling the centre console apart and pulling the dashboard apart, I had to put the gear lever back on top of put the knob back on top of the gear lever again, and then I had to move it down to out of park into drive or something to move the lever back to have space to get the stereo out. Now, where are we? No. I must have parked slightly wrong. I know what it'll be, Hang on. Yes, what it is here, the reason it's not working is the canes at the front of the truck there. It's probably got to be nearer the back of the truck. Oh, why am I not walking now? I don't know, hopefully that's far enough back so it's in the... no it's not, bugger. Okay, we'll try that again. We're going to move it a bit further to the back of the truck, I think. Come on, that's it, come on. And then when I press the R, it'll recognise the trailer part in the thing there. So now, if I press R, that's what I wanted. See, so now we can go select. I want that all the way up to 40. Oops. Cell. And then select. Cell. Yep, so that's all of my cars sold. Then I want to buy new ones. That's where are we? Car fueling here for cow. Okay. I thought they were 18 months old, but it says it's either 21 or 27 there. I can't read it properly. Select, I want to buy 40 of them. Yes. Do you want to purchase 40 animals? Yes, I do, for 161,000. Oh, does it tell me I haven't got enough money, does it? Yes, okay. So there you go, the simple answer is I'm going to put some more money in of my own, which means that I'm going to have to buy some more money. So it's going to be 161,000 altogether. Oh, I'm going to have to buy quite a lot of more money. There you go, what's that knock my overdraft up to then? 125,000 again, okay. Yeah, that's one of the things I do like about this game, is that I'm always spending money and always struggling to try and get out of debt. And as I've mentioned before, if I ever do manage to get out of debt, then I just go back in and put myself back in again. So it's always a struggle, because yeah, I like repaying off debt in this game. It makes it much more interesting, I think. But there you go, I was hoping that my 40 cows I sold, plus my 40 calves I sold, would be enough to bankroll the 40 new cows I've just bought, but that wasn't so. So I still had to buy extensively to do so. That's alright. Anyway, so to get the stereo out of my wife's dashboard, I had to put the car out of park into drive. And to put it out of park into drive, I have to turn the ignition on, because you can't move it out of park without putting the ignition on. Some cars that have an auto gear stick on them have a button you can press to override that, so you can move it out of park without having the ignition on. With my wife's one, doesn't have the button, so you can't do that. So that's fine. I had all the dashboard apart. I had the ignition on in the car, so that the gear lever could be out of park. And so I checked the fuses first. The fuse was very, very easy to check because that's just in the front footwell, but it wasn't a blown fuse, so the fuse looked absolutely fine. So then I thought, well, the next thing I could think of to try was a loose connection somewhere in the back of the stereo. So I pulled all that apart, had a look at it. There was nothing obvious, but when I put it back together again, the stereo was working. So it must have been a loose connection because I hadn't really done anything apart from pull a lot of the connections apart to get the stereo all the way out, and so I could run an amp meter over everything, see if it was getting power to it, and the amp meter was telling me that yes, it was certainly getting power everywhere. And then when I plugged it all back together again, the stereo was working. So I thought, that's great. Put it all back together, put the dashboard back together, put the centre console back together, stereo's working just fine. Open the passenger door of the car, and the stereo cuts out, loses all power. So that's weird. So close the passenger's door again, stereo's still completely dead. Open the driver's door to get out of it, close the driver's door, the stereo started working again. Thought, now this is getting really, really weird. Open the passenger's door again, stereo dies. I thought, there's no way, absolutely no way that I've accidentally crossed some wires and connected the stereo power button up to the doors somehow. I mean, you couldn't make this up. It's just incredible. So every time I opened the passenger's door, the stereo would lose all power to it, and every time, the first time I opened the driver's door, it gave power back to the stereo again. The stereo started working. Although, admittedly, I tried, after it lost power the second time, I tried opening the driver's door and closing it, and it didn't restore the power to the stereo. But I thought, that is just really, really weird. Now, I did eventually work out what it was, although it did take me a while to work it out, because I thought, I can't, I knew that I hadn't connected the power button of the stereo up to the doors in some way. I knew that just wasn't even a possibility. So just, okay, put this down here for a minute. Let's go and move the truck back. Now, what it turned out to be, so the reason the stereo, and so I thought, well, maybe in the passenger's door, because there are speakers going to both doors, I thought, maybe I've got the wires to those speakers stretched a bit tight, so when I'm opening the passenger's door, it's actually pulling on something, and that's why it's losing power there. But I checked all that wiring, and no, because it was loose enough that, nothing was being stretched or anything. It wasn't so loose that it was going to get caught in anything. So I thought, no, that's set up just perfectly the way it is. So it wasn't that. And I'll just change this back, and then I'll explain what I finally worked out it was. And you just wouldn't hear of it. You really wouldn't. So let's change it back to that. So I want it back to a bale trailer ready for next to bales. So that's that done. Oh grief. It's just too tight around this yard sometimes. Oh yes, there you go, I can walk through there. Jump in there, reconnect that up. Oh no, come on. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes that's just this mod, the way this mod works. Sometimes it does little tricks like that, but that's alright. Put the truck back. So anyway, what it turned out to be in the end, but it did take me a while to get there and work it out. Well, actually, I kind of got a bit of a clue, because I thought, well, I'm running out of daylight, running out of time, this will have to wait until the next day. Went to start the car, and it just wouldn't start, it was dead. And the reason it was dead is the battery had died. So what had happened is, the reason the stereo had stopped working in the first place was obviously that, yes, there must have been a loose connection somewhere in the back of it that come loose, and when I took the stereo out, that had fixed that problem. But what had caused the secondary problem is the battery must have been fairly close to dead when I was doing all that. And because I had to have the car in drive instead of in park, which necessitated me having the ignition on. I'd had the doors open, so the interior light was on. Plus, because the ignition was on, my wife has driving lights in her car under the front bumper, and those are connected straight through the ignition. So if the ignition is on, the driving lights are on, unless you turn the lights on, and then the driving lights go out. But of course I didn't have the lights on, but it meant I had the interior light on. I had the until I closed both doors, I had the interior light on, because she has it set to door setting. I have mine set to off setting. I also had the driving lights on, and having all these on for all the time it took me to pull the centre console and dashboard apart and pull the stereo out and play around with that, and then put the stereo back, and then put the dashboard back together and the centre console back together, was obviously just enough to kill the battery. So that was okay. I had the amp meter still. Ran the thing out. The battery was showing us 4 years old, which a battery could die after 4 years, but they should last longer than that. And it had a green indicator on the top telling me that the battery was still good. Although I have heard of people that have had batteries in the past that are showing as good on the indicator at the top, but are actually pretty close to dead. So I did actually run the amp meter over it and things, and sure enough, everything was telling me the battery was a good battery. So I had obviously just killed it by having everything turned on for too long. Just putting all the cows into their respective paddocks now. Now you'll notice I'm not going back into the same paddocks as I took them out of. That's because they were in the winter paddocks, and I'm putting them back into the summer paddocks. And the summer paddocks are the ones that are connected up to the cow run for taking them down for milking. So that's all good. Now I would have kept some of my calves if I didn't already have calves in the calf barn there, and also in the calf igloos there. Since I have got calves already, that's why I sold all of the calves. So yeah, that was the long story short. I mean, it was quite an adventure trying to work out why the doors seemed to be operating, killing the stereo and not killing it. And the simple answer to that is that it was the interior light coming on when I opened the doors and things that was killing it, and obviously the vibration of slamming the driver's door when the doors were shut again was just enough to bring it back to life. But yeah, it was quite annoying trying to work it out, and it just seemed so odd that the doors were affecting whether or not the stereo was getting power to it and working or not. But we got it sorted out eventually, and that's now sorted. And now the car started making a funny noise on one of the back wheels, and it's either going to be a wheel bearing or brake pads. And so I've got to, tomorrow morning I've got to pull the wheel off and have a look to work out whether it's wheel bearings that I need to replace or brake pads I need to replace, and then once I've worked that out I'll replace whichever it is that needs it. So happy days. That's what you get for owning an older car, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't trade it for a newer car. It seems to me, very, very much in fact, that modern cars are absolutely not built to last. I mean, the last modern car I had even had a plastic radiator header tank in it. I mean, that's obviously not built to last. The radiator header tank being made of plastic, the tank across the top of the radiator sort of thing. So I'm very, very glad to be in a slightly older car, but slightly older cars do come with their own set of problems sometimes, and I've been very, very lucky with mine, probably because mine's such low mileage. But then that also has its problems in a way that if a car doesn't get used, things do kind of wear out a wee bit. So I have had to do a few little things to mine as well, just because of things that have worn over time rather than over usage. Here we go, close that. And so I've got those cows in, yep. Just these ones left to do. And that's all my cows in my paddock. And the video's getting to a decent length now. So once I've got all the new cows in the paddock, I've then got to, I'll probably go and top up the feed troughs in the old paddocks that they came out of, just so they're full ready for next time I put cows in there. And I've then got 5 paddocks to go and fertilise. So all that might get done off camera, we'll just wait and see. But we've now got a completely new herd on this farm. And as I said, the very first day, so today, which is also the first month since, oh no, it's not the first month, sorry, because I'm doing 2-day months on this map. But for at least the first day, the milk intake from these cows will be down, and the reason for that, see if I go back here, this happens whenever you use a, if I go to one of the new cows, here we go, so the health is showing 0%, and that will build up throughout the day, and I'm not sure whether it will get to 100% on this day, or whether it will take a couple of days to get up to 100%. But until that gets up to 100%, the milk take will be down, and anytime you put an animal in an animal trailer, and of course this animal cane here, as far as the game's concerned, is a trailer, is an animal trailer, so I have had those cows in an animal trailer, the health always drops from 100% down to 0%. Every time you put an animal in an animal trailer, that's what happens, and then it has to build up to 100% again. But that's alright, it's all part of the fun and games of trying to run a dairy farm. So, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you found my story about the door-operated car stereo quite amusing. I find it amusing now, looking back on it now, but it wasn't amusing when I was trying to work out what it was. Okay, thanks all. Bye.